What is up, everybody? Brian Mendler back in your life on another edition of the podcast. And today I am super excited because I have who I call the queen of education. She's an author. She's the executive director and co-founder of the Ron Clark Academy, probably one of the most famous schools in the world. The great Kim Bearden. It is so good to see you finally.
So good to see you too, Brian. I'm thrilled to be here.
How are you? So you're in your classroom.
I am. I don't trust the internet at my house. So yeah,
I know. And as we just saw, I don't trust it at my house either. I'm actually very concerned that this is going to cut off. So as hopefully we can get at least a few minutes in. Anyway, it's good to see you. So I'm curious to know how it all started. Like I know you and Ron kind of met a long time ago, but how did that place come to be? And in your wildest dreams, did you ever imagine that it would turn into what it is today?
Well, first of all, no, I could have never imagined that I would be doing what I'm able to do every day. But Ron Clark, I've been teaching for 36 years. Let's start with that. But 20 years ago, I met Ron Clark. We were both honored by Disney as Disney Teachers of the Year. They used to have this big, huge, grand program that they would do across the country. And when we met, he just had all this passion, all this excitement, and we hit it off. And he said, you know, you and I should start a school together one day. And, you know, educators, we say stuff like that all the time. So I said, yeah, sure. That sounds great. We'll do that. Didn't think it would happen, but then a lot of amazing things did start to happen. Oprah had the Disney teachers on her show, which was cool, but she told Ron he should write a book. And remember back when Oprah used to do those book picks, you know, America buys the book. And so the book wasn't doing so well at first. It was ranked like 140,000th on Amazon, but he sent her a copy. She remembered him. She actually loved the book, had him back on, and told America to go out and buy the book. And it shot up to number 2 right behind Harry Potter on the New York Times bestseller list. So that's his story, but that's where I come back in the picture because he called me up and he said, Kim, I'm serious. Let's start a school. I'm going to take the money from the book and I'm going to do this. Come to Harlem. And I said, Ron, my family's here in Atlanta. I think Atlanta's where we should do it. And I won because the school here is here in Atlanta. But he came here and we looked at over 50 sites all over Atlanta. And we came upon this 100-year-old factory, second highest crime zone area of Atlanta. And we got out of the car and the real estate agent said, no, this is really no place for a school. And we looked at each other. We said, no, it's perfect because we wanted to show there's potential in everything. And so we bought this old factory. And then we ran out of money. So I was at the time a middle school principal, still taught. I've always been in the classroom, even throughout all my different roles that I've had. And so it took us 3 years, but we went to the community and we said, you know, we want to be in a place where we can invite educators to come and learn, not because we are perfect, because, you know, there's no such thing as a perfect teacher, but because in the world of education, you know, you and I both do a lot of speaking. We go and we'll sit in audiences, we'll talk to them, but we thought, what if we could add a component to that where people could actually see what we're doing firsthand? So we have a school of students of all different types of learners. We teach them 30, 32 at a time because that's a public school reality. And educators are able to come here, watch us teach, get some methods and ideas, and take them back and attend workshop training as well. So we like to say we're trying to create this revolution in education.
So, but I'm curious, like whose idea was it at first? Like who was the first one who was like, let's have stadium seating in a classroom and allow teachers from all over the world to come and see? Like who envisioned that? Because I'm so fascinated by people who create new things. And that was really, I mean, it still is pretty much the only one of its kind.
Yeah, we are the only ones who do what we do to the capacity that we do. We've had over 100,000 educators who've come here. And so definitely we're one of a kind. Ron gets full credit for that. It was his vision, his idea, but I kind of latched on because I thought it was brilliant what he wanted to do. And so I was just fortunate that he chose me to be his partner in crime here and help to make it a reality.
That's so awesome. So did you grow up wanting to be a teacher? Were you always this like bubbly, warm kind of personality as a kid? And were you a good student in school?
Yeah, I was one of those annoying kids who would cry if I made a B. And sometimes those don't make the best teachers, quite honestly. I think sometimes the kids who struggle to actually become better teachers, to be honest. But I loved school, loved just school supplies, even got me really excited. I was one of those kids. But I actually thought I wanted to be a television reporter for a while. But it was interesting. In college, my roommate at the University of Georgia, her father was a professor in the College of Education. And he said, you got to be a teacher. And I said, I don't really know. I mean, I think I love school, but he actually let me do something. He actually put me into one of his courses where I could go out and work in a school before I'd had all the prerequisite courses. And he put me in a middle school. I guess he just saw something in me. And from like the third day, I was hooked. I was like, oh, yep, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to spend the rest of my life in middle school.
But you knew that this is what you wanted to do.
I did. I did. Yeah. And I still love it. I know that this is a really hard time for educators. I know that it's overwhelming. I know that COVID has put us through the ringer, but 36 years in, even with the ups and downs, I still love coming to work every day. Yeah.
So what allows you to do that, and what advice do you have for those teachers that are kind of going through it right now? Because no question, it is a tough time. I mean, I'm seeing it everywhere I go. I've never seen a time where the burnout is so real amongst so many people.
hmm Well, I do think that, one of the things that does help is that you've got to find, if you can, if you're not in your school somewhere, you've got to find teachers that help fuel your soul, right? I mean, so you're not sucked down into this vortex of negativity. You've got to find people, your people, that you can bounce ideas off of, that you can share with, that you can lift each other up, because that does help. And I'm very fortunate that, we were able to create an environment here where we have a lot of that. But even when I haven't always had that, I've always worked at some schools with incredible people. I always sought those people out, and I really tried to find that positive spirit. Um, I also think it's really important to stay connected to our purpose and to really understand. I have to remind myself on days, even when I know it flops. Sometimes I still have lessons that don't go as I thought they would. I still have bad
Right.
days, but sometimes it's even just the shortest moment that you spent with a kid. You don't have any idea how that interaction could actually be something that child will remember for a lifetime. And I'm old enough now, and I've taught thousands of children to have seen many of them go through many phases and see the other side of it. So those newer teachers, I want them to know that a lot of times kids, they don't have it all together, in your class. They're a hot mess. And you're like, well, but sometimes those hot messes end up being the most phenomenal adults. And we get to be a part of that. So I often tell teachers that when you affect the life of a child, you don't just affect one child. I mean, exponentially, you affect that child's future family, children, extended family members, friends, colleagues, employees, everybody that that child will one day have an impact upon. You're a piece of that puzzle. You've had an impact upon as well. So the exponential effect of what we do is profound.
What are some, or what is one that jumps out at you where you're like, this is a kid who maybe really kind of had it rough and struggled a lot and has come sort of full circle and really been able to turn around their life?
Well, there's been so many children that I've been blessed to teach that have had so many different stories. But one student that is currently going to Princeton of ours, his name is Zion. He's phenomenal. He's always been a really bright kid. But when we interviewed him to come here to the school, we said, "Why would you like to come to the Ron Clark Academy?" And he said, "Oh, I don't want to come to the Ron Clark Academy.
Great
I have no
answer.
desire to be there whatsoever." And they were like, "Well, why?" Well, because I don't want to leave my friends, and so our school, we're very intentional about taking all different types of students because, like I said, educators come, we want you to see all types of students. But he said, I have absolutely no interest whatsoever in going to your school. So, like, oh, we're going to take this kid.
Right.
So
That's the one we want the most.
that's how we want. But, and so he came to school here, just poured into this child. He's a brilliant, beautiful, incredible child. But he went on a full ride scholarship for high school. He's now on a full ride at Princeton. He's applying for graduate school. And what's so beautiful is that he is majoring in education policy. He really wants to be somebody who's a change maker in education. And so he is somebody that every time he has a break, he comes back here. He works at the school. He helps out in the classroom and everything. And so, you always tease him, you didn't even want to be here. And here you are, just, completely ingrained in this environment. But he's going to go on and make exponential change in classrooms and schools everywhere. He already
What
is.
what do you think it was? Like what is it about that place or a school in general that makes kids kind of say, this is a place I want to gravitate towards, and even though I didn't want to be here, now I do? And how do you make that transformation?
Yeah, the climate and culture is everything. When educators come here, you do learn a lot of very concrete skills to use in your classroom, no doubt. But we wanted to create an environment. I want kids to lie in bed in the eighth grade and go, I can't wait to go to school tomorrow. What's going to happen? What's it going to be like? And I think that kindergartners feel like that. Somehow we
No doubt.
start to suck the life out of kids
No
the older
doubt.
they get. And so I think for us, what works is that there's a balance in our school. On one hand, we are about there's discipline, manners, respect. How do you treat one another well? There's no tolerance for bullying, for being cruel. You have to create the safe, structured environment so kids feel safe, so they can learn, so they can even take those academic risks. But on the other hand, we're all about that passion, that joy, that enthusiasm. We're very big here at lots of movement, music, and energy. We're very academically challenging. A lot of people don't know that because they just may see clips of, the
Right.
fun and the laughter, but extremely academically challenging. I like to say that high expectations are your outward manifestation of your belief in someone, right? Because if you got
Say
low,
that again. Say that again. Say that
so
again. Slow down.
high expectations are your outward manifestation of your belief in someone. See, if you have low expectations, you're really saying, well, baby, I don't think you can do it either.
Right.
So, you've got to have, but you can't just set an expectation. That's where the love comes in. That's where the joy, the passion for what we do. So it's the balance of the discipline and the structure with the passion and the joy, but underscoring
Yeah.
all of it is the relationship piece.
I call it. I call it. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say I call it limits and love, right? Kids need the two L's, limits and love. Like if you only love on them, then they sometimes will walk all over you.
Yep.
If you only set limits with them, then they'll hate you. It's sort of like if you're always cool, right? They walk on you. If you're always a jerk, they'll hate you. So it's kind of good to be a cool jerk. Maybe that'll be the next name of my book. The next book, Cool Jerk. Right?
I think that's perfect.
That's kind of what you have to be, right? Knock it off, cut it out. Enough is enough. By the way, I love those earrings. Where'd you get them? Right? Like where you're kind of setting those firm limits, but you're hugging at the end, and that's what gets kids to say, I want to come back.
Yeah, because in some schools, there are teachers that teach the same students, same population. Some teachers will send a child to the office every single class period. There's other teachers that don't need to do that, but yet there's structure and more discipline in their classroom. And it is that consistency that's really important. But if you have a relationship with a rapport with a child, like right after this, I'm going to watch one of my kids play football. You can't always do that, right? But it's really important to this child that I go see one of his games. But if you have that relationship, when you do have to give a consequence, when you do have to give correction, that child receives it very differently. Even if in the moment they may be upset, they know, you know what? I know she cares about me. I know she wants what's best for me, and it's received differently.
No question about it. No question about it. And not only is it received differently, but they're often harsh on themselves. Like I've seen kids who are like, you should just take away my recess. And I'm like, well, wait, time out. I wasn't going to actually do that. Like, you know what I mean? Where they're when they have a relationship with you, it's almost like they feel bad that they did what they did, and they're willing to own it much more.
Yeah, we have this, it sounds very strict here, but if kids don't charge their iPads the night before, we're very fortunate that we have iPads for the child, so probably say that. But there's a lot of things we do with them, and so they get a consequence for that. They get a they don't have, they come to school with it dead. And I have this student named Morrison, just the most precious child. But I've spent a lot of time with Morrison. And the other day, I saw him walk back and he put something in the logbook. And anyway, he comes up to me, he said, Miss Bearden, I just assigned myself a detention. And I said, sweetheart, what are you talking about? And he said, well, I didn't charge my iPad and I know it's my responsibility. And I was like, you know what? I said his mother thing. I said, I love your child. I said, I'm not giving attention. But he was like, it's my responsibility and I let you down. And I was like, who does that? What a great kid,
Right. Well, I did that as a kid. I talk about all the time in my workshop how as a kid I loved ISS. ISS was my. You mean I get to come to school, but I don't have to go to class? Like sign me up for that all day. And usually in the school, the coolest person ran the ISS room. So like. Right, you get to hang out with the coolest person, and on top of all that, all the teachers had to bring me my work. Right, serve me my work. Teachers, I'm the king. When I go to a hotel, they charge extra for room service. Right, ISS they deliver free, don't they? Like it's crazy how that works. I know. So, do you get nervous like teaching and when you're like, okay, I can speak in front of adults, no problem, but when you're teaching kids in front of adults, is that a different? Like, how do you mentally prepare for that?
Well, it's interesting. People come here for different reasons. Some teachers come here, they've actually sought out the opportunity to come here for a long time. Some people, maybe their principal might send them here. And so when they walk in the door, people have very different expectations of what they're going to see. So what I ask teachers in the morning when we're doing the opening session, I say, when you come to our classrooms, we're so happy to open our doors, let you come in and see what we're doing. We're not perfect because we're humans and we're dealing with humans. We ask that you watch with a reflective eye, not a critical eye. Your purpose is not to be here and give us a teacher evaluation. Your purpose is to say, what would I do the same? What would I do differently? How can I take what you're doing back to my classroom in some way? For example, a few weeks ago, the power, you were having electricity issues. The power went out here. The whole school went out. So for 2 hours, we had teachers in classrooms observing us, and none of us had any power. And some of the rooms were dark and everything, all our lessons on the board, and we just had to wing it. But some of those teachers said it was the most fantastic thing ever because they're like, okay, this is a real school. So how did you handle this crisis? What did you do? How did you keep keeping on? So um, there is still a little part. I'm used to it now because I've been doing it so long. But yeah, there does take a certain kind of personality to be able to be willing to let people come in and watch you like that, because we know there's some phenomenal educators out there who just don't want anybody up in their business, up in their classroom. So I have to hire people who are willing to take that risk, be secure enough in who they are that even if somebody doesn't like everything you're doing, that's okay. It's about us and our students.
It's interesting that you say some people who come there potentially don't really want to be there. It's almost like, because I always think of your school as a place where it's like the administrator plans like this great trip, like they're going to go to Atlanta and they're going to spend a few days with their team and they're going to go to the Ron Clark Academy. But you're saying that you also have some people who come in sort of negative, like don't really want to be there. First, how do you know that? And then B, like, what do you do when you see that to sort of hook them on your side? You just do your normal thing?
We just do our normal thing, but just like you would do with a student, we really try to reach out to them, try to maybe walk up, give them some eye contact, have an interaction with them, really go out of your way. How do you know? You just know when they walk in the door. I mean, most people are just smiling, hugging, they're just emotional, they're happy, they're joyful. And then there may be one or two, because we will have 500-600 teachers here in a day. But there may be one or two, and the reason they stand out is that they're the only two people not smiling.
Right.
And so, it's really, honestly, it's very rare that someone, when they leave here, they don't go, okay, this is completely different than what I thought, because they're so moved by the interaction with students. And that's what we're all about, is seeing how our students love each other, how they care for each other, also the academic expectations, how our students interact in the classroom, how they, the depth of questioning, how they have discussions, all those kind of things. If you can't be moved by that, then there's something that's really missing from your heart there, or you're just really in a dark place. And we talk about that too when teachers are here. We talk about the difficulties of our job. We talk about how, we're not trying to be toxically positive, that it's all, rainbows and unicorns, right? So we talk about how hard our job is. How do you keep that inside, that motivation and that kind of thing when you're going through a rough time yourself? But it's interesting too. I have some kids, because the kids understand why the teachers are here. And it'll be interesting. Every once in a while, I'll have a couple of kids and they'll come and say, Spirit, that teacher looks really unhappy. And I'll say, really? And they'll say, don't worry, I got her. And then they'll just walk over and start talking. So some of our kids, even, they understand, if I can make that teacher happier, that's going to help kids back in her classroom. And so I think that's a beautiful thing that some of our students have started to understand that.
No question. I love that they do that. So what's the future look like for Ron Clark? What do you guys have and you always have new stuff. My wife actually asked before we came on, she was like, can you ask him two things? Number one, how do you become a student there? And number two, is it a prerequisite that you have to know how to dance?
Well, being the co-founder, and then I can't do anything when it involves dance moves. I have verification that it does not require that you. No, man. I cannot dance. It's bad. I dance anyway, because I always tell people, you know what, dancing is joyful. Just dance anyway, but don't worry about what anybody else thinks about you. But
just ask Elaine on Seinfeld, right?
Right, exactly. I kind of have some Elaine moves, so it's not a prerequisite. But our students come to us from all over Metro Atlanta, and all of us who teach here have public school backgrounds, but we are private schools simply because we want to be able to have the opportunity for educators to come in and sit and not to have those restrictions placed upon us that a public school would have. So we have an admissions season, like right now, students apply when they're in the third grade to enter as fourth graders. I honestly would love to take every single child who applied to come here, because I thought if they want to be in the school, I wish they could be here. Yeah. But our students attend on scholarships. The scholarships are funded by the educator training. So that's why it's a win-win. We're a nonprofit, so that's a really important point that some people don't know. So 100% of when people come here for educator training and they pay for that, that's part of what makes us unique as well, is all the money goes back into the kids who attend the school. And so our students, about a third of the students that we select have never had academic success before. And it could be a variety of reasons: learning issues, attentional issues, lack of motivation, but for whatever reason, they just were not successful in their learning environment. A third of the kids are doing okay. A third of the kids are doing pretty well, no matter where they fall academically. A third of our kids have some type of discipline issues prior to coming here. And then for the majority of our students, certainly not all, but the majority, it varies between 75 and 85% of our students. On average, their family makes about $27,000 a year or less. So it's a variety. And we would love to take every child who wants to come here. But what we do is we just try to compose a class that has all those different types of learners, different types of personalities, because when an educator comes in here, I want them to know I understand when you have a kid 3 grade levels ahead, a kid 3 grade levels behind, you get the kid over there who has a hard time paying attention, the kid over here who hates school. You know, how do you teach all of those kids in
Yeah.
one setting and have success? So we're trying to replicate some of the challenges. Now I know I'm sitting in this beautiful facility and things like
Right.
that. So, but we're trying to replicate a lot of the challenges that public school teachers say, this is what makes my job so hard, so that we can provide solutions.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the criticisms that I hear. Like one of the criticisms or sort of kind of pushbacks on your school and on your place is that's not real life, right? Like it's not real life. Like nobody has classrooms like that and nobody has equipment like that and they have all the best of everything. So number one, how do you respond to that? And number two, do you feel like you have the top notch stuff? And I know Ron, I think, I just see how he operates. He's a phenomenal marketer. He's a tremendous ability to connect with people. And is that how you also fund it?
Well, we fund it, yes, like when if you come here and you purchase things from our store, you purchase things online, whether it be our books or the house merchandise, our house system is taken off all over the world. All of that goes to
Yeah, I
kids.
know that's big.
So I would say to you about that is that the things I do in my classroom here, I've gotten better because I've been here for 16 years now. But the things I did in public school, I do here that I share with teachers, I did them in my public school classroom, teaching all different types of students without these resources. The building is a beautiful space, but it's in part such a beautiful space because people have contributed to it because they want it to be a place for educators to have a wonderful time. So yes, we have flying dragons on the ceiling and all these really cool
And the
things
slide, the
and
amazing slide.
slides and some of that. But part of that, it's a gift for educators. I don't own this school. Ron Clark does not own this school. We're a nonprofit. And so the idea is that, yes, if you, as you said, if you are able to come here with your administrator and spend 2 days and you feel like you've been, some people say, oh, it's like the Disney World for teachers. If you feel that way,
Right.
then maybe you leave going back a little bit more energized. But if we were to lose everything and you found us out under a tree, um, and we kind of did during COVID. We were teaching from our basements,
Right.
but we did have technology, but we did have to go find some of our kids, even if you have internet access, 8 people are all of a sudden now on that iPad. It's dropping left and right
I
too, right?
couldn't get on this morning from my house. So,
Exactly.
right. I mean, you can't trust it.
So we teach from home, but we still manage to keep that magic, those relationships, all of that. So the skills that we teach teachers when they come here, they are translatable anywhere. Whether you're a kindergarten, whether you're post-secondary teacher, it is a lot about how do you engage students. Yes, there's a lot of movement. Yes, there's some dancing every once in a while, but really it's more about the depth of questioning, how we move, how we speak, how we interact in the classroom, the expectations, how our students are able to speak about their learning, all those types of things. Those are things that you learn while you're here. They don't play out as sexy and flashy, on social media, right? Sit there and
Sure.
hear kids having
Sure.
this depth of conversation. But when you're sitting in our classrooms, that's what you actually witness. And you're like, oh, I can do that. I can take that back. I can do that in my classroom.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's so much, and the truth is, relationships can be done anywhere. They can. I mean, relationships can be built in a closet. I mean, they can wherever you are. And like you said, you're going to a game after this. Just building that connection and constantly doing that. Is that one of the focal pieces that you kind of push when teachers are there?
Yes, I mean, you do have to be really clear, especially with beginning teachers. I'm not their friend. I'm their teacher, right? And then how you build it, because you're saying, some teachers are trying to be, oh, I'm the cool teacher, but then those kids get out of control. Cool, under
Right.
cooler kids don't feel safe in your classroom. So there's definitely the teacher-student relationship, but we are very big on building bonds, building rapport, getting to know our students, what matters to them, what they care about, weaving that into lessons as well. Even during COVID, my gosh, when I was in that Zoom screen with my kids, I was teaching fourth and fifth grade those years, and every time like a dog would pop, like somebody's dog comes on the screen, I'm like, oh my gosh, wait, I'm big on classroom time, but I'm like, okay, we got to pause. Who is this? We have a new classmate. It's Thunder. Well, let's meet Thunder. Well, the next thing I know, all these dogs are showing. Everybody's getting their pets. I got a turtle, a lizard in class, and everything.
Right,
But
right.
I'm writing down all the names of these pets, and now those kids are even in the seventh grade. And I'll go up and go, okay, I need to see a picture of Thunder. Do you have, like what's going on with so and so? They know that you care enough to remember those things, that you want to ask about their family members. You want to know the people that matter to them. That's important to students.
I think that was my favorite part of COVID. My favorite part of the the whole virtual learning experience was I mean, I have a fifth grader and a third grader. At the time, they were in end of second and end of kindergarten when COVID first hit. But when you get on the computer and you see everybody get on, and people would see their pets or their siblings, right? Like
Right.
I know my kids would go on each other's Zooms and just wave to everyone, and like look, I mean, I guess maybe there wasn't as much quote unquote content going on, but I felt like the connection piece was really done well during that time because of that.
Right. I often tell teachers, you know what, when I was talking to teachers, like doing virtual presentations with teachers during COVID, I was like, you know what, right now in this world of uncertainty, when we don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, the one thing that's been consistent is you've shown up, you've been there day after day. And there's some comfort in that for kids to know, you know what, sometimes the technology, we were learning new programs, we were trying to do all these things, all of us were, but you know what, you were the COVID teacher. You were the one that stuck with them through it and didn't abandon them. I think that's really important.
And I think that's really important right now. And I notoriously talk about my last year. So my kids were in fourth and second. And last year, my daughter's second grade teacher quit 4 weeks into the school year, and my son's fourth grade teacher quit the day before Thanksgiving. And I'm not judging or criticizing them. I think people have to do what they have to do, but it's really changed my perspective as a parent. Like when my kids come home from school, I used to say to them, "How was your day?" Like that was what I used to. How was your day? Like how did you learn? What'd you learn? How was your day? And now, and I didn't even realize I do this, but my wife was just telling me I do this. Now, when they come home from school, the first thing I say to them was, "Were your teachers there today?"
Oh,
And when they
wow.
say yes, I'm like, cool. And then usually like 5, 10 minutes later, I'm like, by the way, did you learn anything? Like that, but it's very much secondary to me to what you just said, showing up and connecting and knowing that my kids, personally, my kids have selfishly, right, have a place to go where there's that consistent adult who just continues to show up every day. And I think that's enough right now. Like I don't think it's good for us to have low expectations for each other in our profession. I think we should have high expectations. But I also think if you just show up every day right now and you do it with a really good attitude, I think give yourself a break as a teacher, and really that's enough. And like allow yourself to be. I think sometimes and that's part of what is causing the burnout. We're just so hyper, like need to get everything done, and I didn't get my lesson all taught, and it's like it's okay, it's all gonna be there. I always say your lesson is like the stuff on the shelves at the store at the grocery store. Like it's not going to go bad. It's going to be there. Like you can go tomorrow, you can go the next day, but the relationship, that's the produce. Like that's the stuff that sort of in the moment, if you don't say I love those earrings, or that's a cool shirt, or that's a great hat, like I mean that goes bad. That's like the raspberry where you come back like 20 minutes later and you're like, oh, there's a little mold on the bottom of it. Like you got to get the relationship stuff while it's in front of you versus the content, which once the relationship is there and built and foundation is formulated, then you can really focus. And I always point back because I always think the content is just sort of what I'm bringing with me. It's like this sack I got over my shoulder, but the people are the most important thing. Like we teach people, we don't teach math. We teach people, we don't teach social studies. The social studies is coming with you. You're going to bring it with you and you're going to deliver some of it, no question. But the focus is always on the person first. And we make that the focus, typically good things happen.
I agree. And, it is, I'm concerned for our profession because there are so many schools where they are trying so hard and they have spaces that are full. And then it's an endless cycle because then the teachers who have shown up, they have to go cover those other classes where there is no one and where they haven't found a replacement yet. And so that causes less time for them to plan and more burnout. And so it is a vicious cycle. So I think one of the things that we've got to do, there are so many challenges being an educator right now. We need more respect. Teachers deserve more pay. They deserve more planning time. They deserve everything because teachers work so hard and it's such an important profession. But we've got to do a better job of marketing what we do, try to bring people to our profession. I think that we got to be careful. We do need to talk about what we need as educators, but we got to realize where are we talking about it and how is it making change? Because there are young people and they're like, well, why would I want to be a teacher? All I see is teachers complaining how they hate it, how it's terrible. And somehow we've got to remember what are the good parts of it, because if we can get more people to come into this profession, it's going to make it better for all of us. And so it's a really challenging time for everyone.
How do you do that though? Like what are your recommendations for how you do that? Because like I know my son wants to be a teacher, right? He from the time he was born, like he comes home, he is the most perfect student, right? Like he comes home from school, he's the opposite of me, right? He comes home from school and he lines up his beanie babies and he teaches them. Like, and he pretends he's the teacher. He gives them detention. I mean, it's hilarious actually. He
Right.
asks me what to do with that. What am I supposed to do if if the beanie baby's talking the whole time? I'm like, so and I wouldn't like. It's tough. Like part of me, there's a small part of me that's like, be this or be that. But I don't. Like I want him to come in this profession. But how do you specifically over maybe even the next couple of years see us getting people back into this?
I think that we just have to understand, like when you're a writer, you have to know your audience. I think that when you're speaking about our profession, you have to know your audience too. So, for example, I went to get a checkup, not this year, but before, get my yearly checkup. And I was talking to the nurse. She's looking at the clipboard, and it is a place a lot of us have that insurance, so we have our checkup there. And she goes, "Oh, you're a teacher?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I really love what I'm doing. I'm really enjoying being a teacher." And she said, "Just a minute." She put the clipboard down and she left. She comes back, and I thought, well, that's never a good thing when they're reading your chart, and then all of a sudden I leave. She came back in with another nurse, and she said, "Tell her what you just told me." I said, "I'm sorry." She goes, "Would you please tell her what you just told me?" I said, "I'm sorry." And she said, "About being a teacher." I said, "Oh, that I love it." And she looked at the other nurse. She said, "I told you there had to be one. There had to be one." And I said, "What's going on?" And she said,
Wow.
"We've been seeing teachers all summer, and every single one of them hate what they do." And she said, so she was ready she said, "I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to homeschool my child because I don't want to send my child to a place where everybody hates what they do. Why would I want them to teach my child?" So just those like casual conversations, I get it, because someone's like, "Yeah, I don't want to go back. Yeah, it's been a nice summer. Yeah, I got to go back." You have to understand, well, you have a parent there who's like, "I don't even want to send my kid to school." That kind of conversation just perpetuates, oh, there's nobody who even wants to be a teacher. They're just showing up. If you have your colleagues and you need to sit there and talk about solutions and difficulties and what you need, or in a forum where people have ability to make change, that's great. But just, on and on and on about how miserable it is. You can talk about the challenges, because I talk about the challenges too, and being tired, but you just have to be careful, because we're trying to recruit. We're going to help ourselves if we get more teachers who do see that there's value in this job, even though it's so hard, and even though you're not paid enough, and even though all these things. The more we can get into this profession, the more it's going to help us.
I think though, I don't know a profession that doesn't think they're underpaid. What profession I bet you LeBron James thinks he's underpaid. And
Yeah,
I think he is. When they actually do the math on how much revenue he generates, I actually think overall he is underpaid, right? And so I think it's easy to, and I think unfortunately in a lot of ways it's become popular to be negative. Like social media exasperates that, right? When you go on YouTube, or you go on and you see these "why I quit the profession." I mean, these have 500,000 views, and and I get it. Like I get people are exhausted and it's overwhelming. And my daughter has 29 kids in her third grade class. Like that's an overwhelming. That's a battle as a teacher that you almost are being set up to fail. I really believe. Like imagine going out to dinner with 29 people and getting one server. Like you'd be pissed, right? You'd be like, this, what is up with this restaurant? Like this restaurant's ridiculous. Like give me at least 3 servers for 29 people, right? And so I think a lot of times we're put in, but there's also a lot of good to it. Like I was saying we're hosting Thanksgiving at my house in a few weeks, and we were just talking about people, my niece and her husband who are coming, and they're both nurses, and we have to plan around them. Like they have to go to work at 4:00 on Thanksgiving Day. So we're like, okay, we'll have everybody come at 1. It'll be fine. Right. But like, as a teacher, I never had to think about that. Like I never had to think about rearranging Thanksgiving because I might have to go to work. Like my point is that there are a lot of good. There's a lot of good in the profession as well. I think teaching rewards longevity, right? It rewards you being in it longer. Typically that's true for the pay in most places, right? The longer you're in it, the more you make. But more importantly than that, it's true for the recognition, right? It's true for like, you got to be in it for a while for a kid to come back and say, "I remember you. Like I had you 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and you changed my life." And like, there's a lot of kids when they're going through that process that don't realize that that teacher is in the process of changing their life. It takes time and like perspective a lot of times going through their life where they're like, man, I remember that lady or I remember that guy. And like, but that doesn't happen in your first year. That doesn't happen in your second year. Maybe if you're lucky, it might happen once in your third year. But like, you've been in it for a long time. I mean, you could probably count on your hand the number of times people, maybe more because you're in a high profile position. But the bottom line is, out of the thousands of kids you've impacted, we're not in this profession where we go to work and 80,000 people cheer for us, like we'll be at the Georgia game today or at the right. Like, that's not what we are. Like, we are in a position, we're in a job where a lot of times no one sees the result. Like I remember I would be working with a kid, right? And like, the kid would get something, like something they were struggling with the whole time. And I would be so excited. I'd look around for someone to high five and I'd be like, shit, I'm the only one here. Like there's nobody else here, right? Like nobody else saw that. Like, I was the only one who saw that. And the kid knows it and I know it, but like, no one does this for you and no one high fives you. And I think that's, and you and I both know this because probably better than most, because we get that now, right? Like, I lived in the world of being in that little small self-contained classroom where I was helping one kid and seeing that result and wanting to high five and hitting the air, to being in front of 1,000 people where people applaud for you when you're done. And it's different. Like, when you get that applause, it makes you say, yeah, like, I'm ready to go do the next one tomorrow. And I thought I was tired, but no, I'm not, because look at what the results that I get after I go. And most teachers throughout their career don't face that. And I think that's why we got to do that for each other. We have to applaud each other and we have to recognize those successes in each other.
I agree so much. One thing about the pay, though, I will say this. Think about this. So many teachers do have to have a side job just to be able to pay their bills. And so that's ridiculous, right?
Totally.
So, but that part about lifting up each other, it's so important. Not bullying each other, not hurting each other. Sometimes you do have teachers who do want to do more, celebrate them instead of bullying them or making them feel, like that you're jealous of them or being ugly to them or just kind of things like that. And even on social media, it's funny. So social media is a blessing and a curse. We know this, right?
Yes.
So it's great because it can be used to share ideas and to share thoughts and things like that. People can benefit from it. It's also a curse because comparison can be the thief of joy. People forget you're just seeing people's highlight reels. They're not posting, like the day that everything fell apart in their classroom. Usually they're posting like, this was a great thing that happened. But it's interesting. So I've been on Instagram forever, been on Facebook forever. So it was like, you got to get on TikTok. So I'm so frustrated because I'm like, I'm old, y'all. I'm 57. I'm like, I finally figured out Instagram, and now you're going to tell me I have to do something. Now I'm going to go on TikTok, and then somebody else is going to come up with another app.
That's always what happens. Of course. Of course.
So anyway, I put a couple of things. I said, okay, I'm going to take some of these things I've put on Instagram. I'll put them on TikTok. So I did. And honestly, I'm just giving away stuff because, like, when people come here, I just give away ideas. Like, I prefer that if you post and you do the idea, it's nice to give a shout out, like, hey, thanks, Kim Bearden, for the idea. I think that's good etiquette that we should do that with each other always as teachers, right? Like, got this idea from Brian Mendler,
as humans.
It's just courteous to do that
as humans.
Yes, but
we should do that. We should do that as humans, shouldn't we? Like, the truth about life is the more you give, the more you get.
Yeah, because I'm not selling it. I'm not charging you for it. I'm giving it to you. But just, that's nice. I think that we should do that. But it was interesting because I put a couple of things on TikTok and they were the most simple things because I've done some elaborate stuff. I got to admit, some elaborate stuff. But you got a minute. I'm like, okay, here's something anybody can do, right? And so, like, I did this thing where I was like, they were doing watercolors to punctuate because just this calm. It was just a beautiful day. All of a sudden, people went in, like, this person said, you can tell she hasn't been teaching very long. And I was like, I've been teaching for 36 years. And somebody was like, simple? Who has time to set up watercolors? And I'm like, come on now. And then I was like, you got time to scroll on here and make that comment? You probably could have set up the watercolors. And then somebody else was like, I don't know, it was like, nope. Somebody's like, nope. And I'm like, that was odd because if I'm scrolling through, I watch people make over their homes and build furniture. I'm not about to build furniture, but I don't feel a need to say, nope, I'm not going to do that. I just keep scrolling. Right. So I am fine because I've just been doing this long enough. I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are so unhappy. Why would it, like, why just keep scrolling if you don't like it? I'm just offering something to make your day brighter. Like, if you don't like it, I'm not, I barely have any followers on TikTok. And it was just so interesting to me. And I thought, oh my gosh, but if I had been like new teacher and I had done that and people had gone in on me like that, it would have killed me. And so I'm thinking, why do people feel the need, like, teachers, we shouldn't be doing that. We should just be like, if it's not for you, that's fine. Just keep scrolling. But,
Right.
because it wasn't anything harmful to children. It was just like my kids were sitting there having a great day. I thought it was so odd. I just thought
I
it was so odd.
remember, I mean, my parents used to say all the time, right? Like, I mean, you don't treat people better than you want to be treated. Not like you want to be treated, but better than you want to be treated. And I mean, karma's a real thing. Like, this is why I don't leave bad reviews ever. I refuse to leave a bad review. Even if something's bad, I won't leave a bad review
I'm that
because
way
my
too.
thought is what goes around comes around. So, and usually what goes around comes around times 10. So
Right.
what you do, someone's going to do back to you, right? Times 10. And so my rule is, right, I don't leave bad reviews because I don't want to leave people to leave them about me,
Right.
and so, and I think that's a good way to be. And I think, that rule, and I kind of talked over you, so I apologize, but I was saying, like, that rule, the more you give, the more you get anyway. Like,
Mhm.
that's a good way to think about things in the world. I mean, that's how you get, the way you get things in the world is to give more of whatever things you have to other people, because you get that feeling of accomplishment, and that's something that you can't really buy. Like, that's something that only is gotten by doing something for someone else. And I think the whole thing is crazy, like the whole even giving credit. Like, I'm for that, but like when I was a kid, when you copied and stole, I mean, you got in trouble for it. Now when you copy and steal, they call it research, right? As an adult, they're like, oh yeah, it's research. As a kid, you get in trouble for it. So, like, right, I mean, it's good, of course, but there are a lot of these strategies. I don't even know who came up with some of them. I
Right.
mean, I've
Right.
heard the 2 by 10, right? The relationship building strategy with kid, 2 uninterrupted moments, 10 consecutive days. I've heard that from like 50 different people. And I'm like, I could give you all credit, or how about we just all use it and just
Yeah.
know
Stuff
that
like
it's a cool
that. Yeah.
strategy? It's
Yeah.
all about kids. The only thing that matters are the kids. Like, I think sometimes we get caught up in things that don't matter.
Yep. Absolutely.
Hey,
Absolutely.
the other question I had is the dress thing. So I know your teachers are always dressed to the nines at Ron Clark. And is there ever a day where they're not? I know you say dress for success and all that, and I'm for that overall, but is there ever a time where they're allowed to not dress up like that? Because they
Well,
look good. And do they get custom suits and everything? I mean, these guys, I mean, man, they look good.
it's funny. I think that they've kind of set the bar for each other. The men now they're trying to outdress each other. They do. They
They
look
look
really
good.
sharp, don't
I
they?
get jealous when I see them. I'm like,
They
man, these
all
guys
have.
know how to
I
dress.
don't. You'd have to ask them, but they have some guy that I think Troy Kemp hooked him up with, who gets like really good, inexpensive suits and tailors them, and they drive to Chattanooga or something, and they get the suit for like a fraction of the cost or something. So
No way.
yeah, there's some they're really sharp. Well, I wear. Yesterday, I was dressed like an auto mechanic, and I had on thanks for that, and scrubs, and I wear a lot of costume stuff. So there's that. But on planning days, like we had a work day this week, we were all like in sweatsuits and stuff like that. Part of the reason is because our school is a very visible place, and we are trying to. We want, as educators, we keep saying we want to be treated as professionals. And I know this is very controversial because a lot of teachers have given a lot of pushback on that. Well, you know what? I'm down on the floor. I am too. I mean, I have realized though that when I dress really nice, I feel better personally. That's not how the case it works for everybody. I mean, I want to be comfortable. I'm known for I wear Converse with my dresses all the time. So
I
like
know
it's
you do.
not like I'm wearing the high heels every day. I wear Converse, high top
How
Converse.
many pairs do you have?
Oh God, it's kind of an upset. It's kind of not healthy. I have a
How
lot.
many? How many? About. Do you know exactly the number,
I don't know
honestly? You
exactly.
don't?
Probably 60, 70 pairs of Converse. But it's because people, when people know this about you, then they give them to you. Like it becomes like a gift thing. Like they
What's
have,
the coolest pair that you have?
one of the coolest pairs when I had released my book Fight Song. Some friends of mine, Holly Ely and Kevin Butler, and they actually had custom made Converse that said Fight Song with a big heart on everything. They put the logo on the side of the Converse, and that was just really cool. They gave it to me at my book release party. I thought that was just special, and so that meant a lot to me.
What is it? Is it the comfort? Is it the look? Is it both? I mean, you're
It's
absolutely known for that. It's a great look.
Well, I wear
I
it like
gotta
I
say.
wear some high heels sometimes, but my feet are just killing me because that is the whole. I'm running all day long, and so I was just trying to find a comfortable option because I've been doing this so long. My feet were really always killing me at the end of the day, and so one day I just found these pink Converse. I thought they were cute, and so I thought I'll wear them with a dress. And everybody thought, "Oh my gosh, that's so good!" And so then now I just say I know I'm buying all different colors and then looking for unique ones. It just kind of became a thing. So, but the idea is that we are all as educators, we're talking about how do we get our profession respected out there. I want, when there are people from business come in here, I don't, if they come into this building and I'm talking about our school, I want to feel like we are on an equal playing ground. I don't want it to be like, oh, that's the person in the suit and I'm the person in my sweatpants. It just doesn't feel like the power dynamic, I guess you might say, isn't doesn't feel equal. But if I walk up and I'm professionally dressed and they are too, it just has a different feel to it. But I do think it people look at it and they see us as as professionals, that they respect what we do, and I think that that plays part of it. I know not all teachers will agree with that, and I certainly respect that, but it's something we do here.
I'm still just stuck on 600 pairs because I'm trying to.
No, 60, 60.
Oh, I thought you said 600.
Oh
Oh, okay,
gosh, no.
60. Did I thought? Why did I think 60? But
Oh,
even
no.
60, like
I'd
I'm
have
thinking
to buy
about
a
my
new house
closet.
for them. I do have a closet where just my Converse exist.
Just one closet, just hooked up with Converse.
So it is funny because I have, well, actually it's next weekend. Every girl who's ever come to the school has had a summer party at my house. So I have a fifth grade girls summer party every year.
Right,
It's kind of
right.
tradition. So it's next weekend actually. But
How
that's,
many kids? How many come to that?
well, it's all in fifth grade. So I have like 20 girls there because we have a class at each grade level. So I have like 20 girls, so they'll be there next weekend. But the tradition is that I let them, because when you're my age, you just have collected clothes over a long time. It's, so I have like all of the old, I collected all the gowns and party dresses and cocktail dresses and everything like that, and just all my work clothes and all my Converse. And so that's the thing, is I just let them go. I said they get to go in my closet and they get to have a fashion thing. They can try on every single thing they want. I open up all my jewelry to them, all my accessories,
Wow.
and they spend half the night just trying on all my stuff. It's, I don't know why they love it so much, but like that's what they're already talking about. We're gonna try your clothes, right? Do we get to try on your clothes too? I said, sure, you can try on my clothes. And then I have like sequin gowns from things I've had to go to 20 years ago, and they'll put those on, and my high heels, they'll put those on, and it's just really fun. Something they
So that's the night. Do you cook for them all as well? 20 girls in the morning. You make them all breakfast.
Yeah,
What do
I
you
do.
what does Kim Bearden make for
Well,
breakfast?
so
Pancakes.
I'm not good at a pancake. I don't even
Okay.
try the pancake.
I was
I've
gonna guess
heard one too many
pancakes.
pancake. The hard thing is you're cooking for that many people and get everything ready at the same time. That's my
Right.
challenge. So I usually just have like scrambled eggs and biscuits and
Nice.
bacon and stuff like that. Yeah.
Nice, nice.
But they've been
Listen,
eating junk all night long, so they're not usually that hungry.
right, right. That's how did the slumber party start? How did that come about? Do you know?
It
Do you
started the
remember?
very first year we opened the school. We just spent a whole lot of time with those initial kids, and so I said, "Well, y'all want to come to my house?" Now, I understand not all teachers are even allowed to have kids,
Of
but
course.
and so I had them over my house for some part. And like, can this be a tradition? As a matter of fact, there's one group of girls that even all through college, they still would come every year over Christmas break and spend the night at my house, like a reunion at my house. So I'm fortunate that I have a basement where they can, there's plenty of room for everybody to spread out and do that. But
That's what I was gonna ask. Where do
yeah.
they all just kind of crash? That's
Yeah,
cool.
but I've also done it here. So, for some schools, some it would not be an option, but we actually have had lock-ins. I mean, we've done that here before too, where, I had just all the girls and we were sleeping in the room. Just moved off out of the desk and had a slumber party and watched movies and popcorn, and it was cozy. And then we went all throughout the building at night, played hide and seek, which they thought was really cool and scary and stuff like that. So we've done some things like that too.
I love it. It's so cool. Last thing I was just curious about, how do you become a teacher there? Like, so how does it work? How does that process work? I know I've seen you post occasionally when there's openings on social media. Is it just a process like it would be basically at any other school?
Sort of. So first of all, yeah, we don't currently have any openings, but when we do occasionally have an opening, what we do is we do post it usually around February online. And so people can know to submit applications. A lot of times, because we're fortunate to get a lot of applications, we usually have a few questions that people just need to answer on video. And it's funny though, I don't want you to go out and get a videographer. I don't want you to go have it professionally edited. I just want it to be like you and I are here, just like real talk, like just talking. So you kind of get to know a little bit about the person. Then the people that we really feel interested in, we invite them to come here and we ask them to teach a lesson. Because Brian, there could be somebody that could have the most extraordinary resume, but it doesn't mean in a classroom that they're able to really connect with kids. Flip side, sometimes you'll have somebody who's just got a very basic resume, but there's just something about them when you talk to them that you just really engage by them. You can feel that their heart is for kids, and then they'll go in that classroom and they'll make magic. One thing is you do have to have 3 years experience before you teach here, because we feel like if you're going to have people coming in and watching you, We want to make sure that you had some skin in the game. And once a teacher is hired here, they're not observed right away because they're all great teachers, but we want to coach them on the things that are very unique to our school or the things that we really expect across the board. And we want to make sure that they're implementing them with fidelity in their classroom before we have others come in to learn from them.
Do you think a lot of them teach differently when there is an audience versus when there isn't? Or do you think it's basically this is how they teach and you're just popping in to watch what happens on a daily basis, whether there's no one here, there's like where you're sitting. How many does your classroom hold?
It holds 240.
Crazy. But most days are there people there? Like
No,
so
it's Thursdays and Fridays. It's usually 2 to 3 weeks at the end of the week, 2 to 3 times a month. Okay, so most of our training days are 2 day visitations. So like maybe 4 or 5 days out of the month, there's visitors. The rest of the time we're just teaching. But when we first started doing this, we're 16 years in now. So the first couple of years, yeah, I would say when we were first figuring it out, I think people would all of a sudden be very different when educators come in, but you can't sustain that. You have to keep teaching and doing like you would always do. And if you're not, there's not that lack of authenticity. Students can tell, teachers can tell, and the students aren't going to respond unless that's the expectation you do all the time. So
yeah.
we're all walking through all of our classes all the time. What you see on a training day is what you see on a regular day, even when there's nobody here. The only difference is that we're not going to give like a test when you're sitting in the room, things like that.
Right,
You know, if I'm planning out my week, I might say, well, that might be more interesting, obviously, to put that on that day because I think that would be really something somebody could really benefit from seeing. And I'm going to do this lesson on this day because maybe there's not as much for them to take away from it. That's the only way that we really adjust because we would never even be able to teach all of our curriculum if we just did a special thing when people came into our classroom.
Right. I wonder if there's ever been any kids that have become sort of almost famous by like doing something during the lesson where everyone's watching and they're like, whoa, look at that kid, or everyone wants to meet a certain kid. Has that ever happened?
Yes. Well, at a certain times, like when we had the first Black, and the second Black Panther's coming out, but when the first one did, we had just like an announcement that we were going to it. There's a very famous meme of one of our kids dancing in his little Tim's up on the desk, dancing back and forth, like celebrating. That meme has gone viral.
Right.
He's now a senior in high school, but, but he was very little when it happened. And we also have had back years ago, one of the things I guess maybe put our school on the map was when YouTube really started to blow up. So, think about it. Our school has kind of come to who it is during the social media age when all these things are happening.
What year did it start?
2007 is when we opened.
Okay. And Facebook came out 2008, right? Or
Right.
2006. One of the either
It was
right before or right after.
Yeah, we didn't have one for the first couple of years. I know that. And so, but we had a viral video called "You Can Vote However You Like." It was telling people it was when Obama and McCain were running, and it didn't say whom you should vote for. We don't tell us, but it said that you just need to go out and vote. And it told what both of their platforms were, and it became this viral video. They just performed it for this event here in Atlanta, went viral. So we got to go to Obama's inauguration, and we were walking through the mall, and people were walking up and calling all the kids by name and everything.
Wow.
It was scary. It was a little scary.
Yeah,
But that
that's a
hasn't
little
happened.
scary, right?
People walking up and handing us CDs and saying, "Would you, this is my song. Would your kids record this song?" It was kind of crazy, but we haven't had anything like that happen in a long time. That was like one of those very first viral moments back when people weren't. Now things go viral daily, but back then it was like a huge deal.
Yeah.
So, but I think the better thing is that there are teachers who come here, they'll meet a child, and years later they'll come back and they will tell me everything. They remember that child. Sometimes, with the parent's permission, the teacher has been able to connect with that child in future years, and send a card or things like that. And it's very, very beautiful.
That's awesome. Listen, these times go quick. Is there any last bit of knowledge or advice that you'd like, or message you'd like to leave everybody with?
Well, first of all, I just want to say to teachers, thank you for doing what you do. We certainly acknowledge how hard it is. Like I said, I'm 36 years in, and I just applaud you for showing up. And even on those bad days, those worst days when you feel overworked and overwhelmed and underappreciated, remember that just showing up and being there for your kids and loving those kids, you've made a difference that day. And then also, if anybody does want to know how to come visit us at the Ron Clark Academy, if you just go to ronclarkacademy.com, you click on where it says professional development, and you'll see all different kinds of dates and how you would register. We have days that are general about everything. We have things specific about how to run a house system. And we have days like ELA day and admin day and math and science day as well. There's a fee for that, obviously. But like I said, all of that goes back to support the scholarships for the students at our school. So hopefully some of y'all consider coming.
So awesome. And I can't wait. I'm going to come there and check it out. And I'm super excited to do that. Listen, it was a pleasure, as good as I thought it would be. Thank you so much for doing this. For those of you who don't know, Kim and I have been trying to do this for like a year almost. Like
Yeah.
it just hasn't worked out. And then it's been good. And we were going to do a day and then one of us couldn't. And it was just, I was looking so forward to this. So I appreciate you so much. I love following you. I love your message. I love the positive vibe and energy that you always bring. And, you know, every time you said 36-year veteran, I thought you were going to say 36 years old, right? Not 36-year veteran. So best looking 36-year veteran of education I've ever seen. Thank you so much, Kim. It was a pleasure. Everybody else, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, download. I'll be back with you same time in 2 weeks. Until then, we say peace. We're out of here. Bye, everybody. Thank you. See you guys soon. Bye.